Distinct sections. The first one is on the topic stated in the advertised title on disinformation and social media manipulation. The second will focus on the drug war in the Philippines and the human rights issues. And we have two of the leading human rights advocates from the Philippines here from that. And appreciate that they were willing to join us on short notice. For this first topic, the social media manipulation and disinformation, I will be showing a few videos, some of which were recorded for prior events that we've done at the UN by experts, and some of which are available online. I also want to note first, we provided some resources on the table in front, most of them relating to the case of Senator Leila de Lima, who has been imprisoned for close to 3 years because of her efforts to expose and oppose Duterte's extrajudicial killing campaign. Some of the materials are from Amnesty International, which has a campaign around Senator de Lima. There are postcards, the famous Amnesty postcards that people write in solidarity, and I'll be glad if anyone wants to write a message to the senator on one of them. I'll be glad to collect them here or throughout the rest of the ASP. I'll be here at least through Friday, and I'll get them to the Amnesty DC office where I live, and they'll deliver them. We have stickers from them. All the other documents, as well as my own organization's stickers, stopthedrugwar.org. The other documents relate to an array of legal cases that the Duterte administration has brought against opposition figures, political leaders, priests and bishops. There's at least one staff person of a political person, 35 cases recently, and others. A whole set of cases brought against the now former Senator Antonio Trillanes, who joined us for our March 2018 side event at the Commission on Narcotic Drugs in Vienna. So you're welcome and encouraged to take those now or on your way out. So just a little about my organization before we get into the rest of the content. StopTheDrugWar.org was founded in 1993. We're part of a global movement known sometimes as the Drug Policy Reform Movement. In work we've done at the UN, which has been my focus since 2015, along with many other NGOs that are part of that, we call for reforms and approaches to drugs that prioritize human rights, development, health, and human security. Many of us, including my own organization, also call for changes to be made to the UN Drug Control Conventions, which, unlike many modern treaties, have no built-in mechanism to automatically review or update them. And most countries, including the United States, have opposed even having any official discussions about treaty reform. Parts of the world, including the US, arguably the Netherlands, are moving toward regulating rather than prohibiting some drugs. Many of us in our movement believe that drug control systems which are too controlling or overly punitive inevitably lead to situations involving human rights violations. For every Netherlands or Portugal, there may be a Duterte Philippines. Now, of course, there are a range of opinions on what is too controlling or too punitive of a drug policy, or how far things should move in the direction that groups like mine propose. They're much more controversial than the issue at hand today is, or should be. almost everyone agrees, at least in theory, that there should not be extrajudicial killings. Polls indicate even in the Philippines, most people think that, although it has not cost the president too much support for his drug war, which remains popular, presumably for other reasons. We entered the Philippines issue shortly after President Duterte was elected in response to the killings. It felt for me like a natural step for a coalition of NGOs working at the international level that we had to do something. And so I organized what was our first UN side event in March 2017 at the Commission on Narcotic Drugs again in Vienna. Not expecting this at all, we wound up with a video from Vice President Leni Robredo, a human rights lawyer in her own prior profession, and she took a very strong stand against the killings and Duterte's drug war, as she had begun to do before that. Allies of the president launched potent political attacks against her for it, and it became a political incident, one which she got past. This is the 6th event in our series on this topic. We're also developing an advocacy campaign. It's called Stand with Human Rights and Democracy, Global Campaign for the Philippines. Possibly will become a larger Stand with Human Rights and Democracy campaign if people working in other issues happen to like the title. We did a soft launch of the campaign last February, coinciding with the second anniversary of Senator de Lima's being jailed. We determined, due to resource constraints and the fundraising turning out to be difficult in this area, we just did a handful of events with groups that didn't need much financial support. There were events in Washington, D.C., Manila, Freetown, Sierra Leone, Mumbai, and Oslo. Now the message of the campaign, it notes links and commonalities between the Duterte phenomenon in the Philippines and the Trump phenomenon in the United States, hopefully without overstating that. And it casts them in the context of global challenges facing our democracies. The rise of authoritarianism, the assaults on human rights, social media manipulation and disinformation in the internet age, generally the demonization of groups of people as leaders find it convenient. Last, maybe not least, is the spread of a Duterte approach to other countries like Indonesia, Bangladesh, in some ways in Sri Lanka and Brazil, which are very alarming developments to us. With that, I will play the first video. This one was published by the news outlet BuzzFeed News, and it accompanied an article by a reporter named Davy Alba on the role of Facebook is playing in facilitating Duterte's drug war. Following that, we will go straight into a video that Ms. Alba, a short statement she recorded for an event for our July event at the Sustainable Development Meeting in New York. And following that, we will have a presentation video provided to us for our March event by a young researcher named Pamela Companito, who's a member of a group that actually interviewed operators of the online troll campaigns, executives and rank and file operators. It's quite fascinating. So I will just play those 3 in a row before returning to discussion. And if you have questions or comments on any of them, I recommend you take a note, and we'll be glad to turn to those after the third video. Okay, so I have some other material to display and discuss. But first, does anyone want at this point to, anyone who would like to have a question or comment, we can do that at this time, and I will bring around a microphone. Also, there's a sign-in sheet for anyone who's willing. One we're using is over there. There are some other copies up there, and would love to be able to follow up with you. Forgot to mention the resources at the front, accepting the postcards and stickers. Obviously, I'll be sending out by email. And if you're willing, your name and organization, country.
Thank you very much. My question is most for consideration. During an event held earlier in November, which was the World Forum of Democracy hosted by the Council of Europe in Strasbourg, there was a panel where a speaker, who was the public policy director for Facebook for Southern Europe, said that Facebook worldwide removes 1 million fake profiles and contents per day. And the problem arises where the fake news that are not illegal, whose visibility is reduced, but not eliminated once for all. And then in this case, as a fact checker is used by those companies dealing with these materials. But the question still is, who decides what is fake news? Because Facebook, as has been said, does not have the competence to consider this, to do so. So the answer would be now that states and civil society could have the final say in this matter, as they have the public legitimation to do so. But then the question, with the not specific reference to the Philippines, but in general, what are the tools they have available, and most of all, how can they use it? That's it for me.
Sure. Well, we'd welcome any insights from others here. My understanding is Facebook is funding independent projects, one in the Philippines that I've heard of, to monitor and help them deal with this problem. It's certainly a thorny issue that probably has no, will always be with us, that will always change. Some of the criticisms I've seen of Facebook are that they've resisted dealing with this for too long, have drawn an artificial distinction, that they're a technology company as opposed to a media company, and that the resources they're putting in are not enough. But they have stepped up their efforts, it appears to me. I personally don't view Facebook as the enemy, but it also looks to me like more needs to be done. Any other comments or questions at this juncture? Okay. So the the title of this section of our event, Disinformation, Social Media Manipulation, Alternative Values, Alternative Facts. These are two distinct concepts, although related. Disinformation might be said to be simply false information put out for whatever purpose. Manipulation can involve disinformation, but it can also consist of orchestrating an appearance of a groundswell of thought or public opinion where one really did not exist, and in that way facilitate the manufacture or influencing of opinions. So, for example, in the Philippines, if you see lots and lots of people on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, supporting the killing of drug users or low-level sellers, one might be influenced to decide that's okay, even if a month before one previously didn't think so. If one if one thinks that lots of people think the government doesn't have a policy of extrajudicial killings, is trying to do something about the killings, is conducting investigations, one might be influenced to believe that, despite it seeming fairly clear based on the president's statements on the pretty low number of prosecutions, despite a large uptick in homicides, that's not plausible. But a lot of people will believe what they're told if they see people around them believe it. Now, if many of those people happen to be paid trolls, a handful of people operating fake accounts, that does not necessarily reduce the the impact. A lot of people are just not careful about that. So the government is investigating, trying to stop the killings. Alternative facts, at least appears that way. It's okay to kill people, or it's needed to. It's okay if it gets to a point where things will be better. Alternative values. Was that a question or?
I mean, if anyone would just contribute to the discussion, states and civil society, how can they work towards legitimation of the criteria for distinguishing fake news to news just okay, which is also about the difference between the values of the narratives that have been posted on social media daily.
Sure. Well, at this point, at least, how to do that is beyond my area of competence. Though it is something I'm starting to read up on. So I have a couple of examples I want to show relating to specifically how disinformation and manipulation are used against political opposition figures. This is a compilation of YouTube videos, fake news about Senator De Lima, which started well before her imprisonment. And that's taking a moment to start, but it's and this was provided by the senator's office. I think it's 26 pages long. It's just a great deal of activity, and much of it is crude accusations, implausible ones. See, few of them there's English, but there are accusations of drug activity, doctored videos. It's just a lot of stuff, and there are people who watch it. She says there are evil spirits in her cell. She attempted suicide. Her son sentenced to life in prison. All of it just made up. She resigned, though she didn't. Other example, I'm going to play just the first minute and 15 seconds of this video. It's publicly available on YouTube. This is from the office of the Vice President for being part of the Communist Party and working with the New People's Army and an insurgent group. So and of course that was made up. And the other thing, this now something that was highly unexpected happened about a month ago. The Vice President, who, as we've discussed, took a very strong stand against the extrajudicial killings, and changed her position on that. She was offered the drug czar position, chair of an interagency task force called ICAD, which seemed like a very strange move on the part of the president, whose policies are diametrically opposed to her expressed views. She took the position saying she was going to use it to try to stop the killings and to redirect policy in a more effective direction. 3 weeks later, she was abruptly dismissed from that post. Before her efforts, which seemed substantial, could really get underway. Now, in the middle of this, this was posted on Vice President's individual Facebook page. They post this from time to time. The fake news about it. So fake news stories intended to embarrass the Vice President about her performance directing drug policy had already come out within this 3-week period. Now, we don't know whether Duterte forces were behind that or someone else. There's more than one camp making use of these tactics. But I saw this, and I was trying to figure out, like lots of other people, is this for real? Has Duterte actually turned this over to her?